everybody, we're back. Yes, here we are. The very life. This is take two of this video for some strange reason. I'm not sure what's going on, but it seems that there was a lag between the audio and the video. So we're trying this again. The streaming software that I'm using is Ecamm Live. I think we are good. So we'll see what happens with this. Keep your fingers crossed. But today we're going to be making a Stanley DualMelt Pro glue gun stand / Caddie. And this has come out because what I ended up doing was purchasing this here. This is the Stanley glue gun. And that's kind of a big one. It's a big one. It's got a high and a low. It looks like a laser gun, so it's definitely, I wanted to have a Caddie for this because there's a couple additional items with this. There's like two different nozzles. There's a long straight one, and then there's another one that has a real wide tip, as you can see there, so you can get a wider thing of glue. And then of course it came with a number, I think like 18 different glue sticks. So I would definitely wanted to have a Caddie because if I have stuff, if this is just by itself, all the other stuff will be spread all over creation. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to make a glue gun stand. Initially, I tried to find a glue gun stand, but there wasn't one made specifically for it. And the majority of glue gun stands were for the real small ones. And so instead of just trying to get one of those and then scale it in one direction, which would mess with the dimensions and everything, I thought, you know what, I'm going to build my own. So we're going to jump into this. And so this video will do two things. Hopefully the audio and video will be synced up. I'm hoping. That's what we're kind of hoping for. And then if not, we'll kind of condense this video down because the first one was like an hour. So we're going to run through this a little bit quicker than last time. So we're going to jump right in, and we're going to go to Tinkercad, and there we are, Tinkercad. And this is the Caddie that I ended up making. So basically what we end up with is the Caddie there. It's got the container where you would put your extension cord or the cord for it. This is where your gun would actually go. And then we have the container for your glue sticks. And then for the two different tips that we have, I've got holes that go down into there. And then I even ended up making a little drip tray. So that will set on the inside of that. So yeah, that's basically what we ended up doing, is making this. So, I've got the little stand here to set that glue gun on, and then we've got a little little nub right there that'll keep that in there, because I noticed a lot of them didn't have that. But I just wanted to have a little bit of real estate to keep the gun in there. So this is going to be version 3. I did version 2, which was this one right here, and I guess we'll just actually show you this. This is the version, and this worked out kind of well, I think. But the problem is I got some of the measurements wrong. It wasn't necessarily that I got the measurements wrong. I didn't take into account the weight, in that this thing is really front heavy. So when it sits here, it kind of slides forward, and the tip goes beyond the little drip tray there. So that's going to be problematic. So basically what I ended up doing is I'm just going to have to move this forward, so that way it hooks right onto where those legs are at. And then I'll just kind of move the whole thing forward to probably about, I don't know, probably around about there, something like that. And that will have enough room to hit in that drip tray. So yeah. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and go back to Tinkercad, and we'll kind of do a rough and ready type of build on this. I'm not going to go full bore, but we'll kind of go over this. So basically, one of the first things I ended up doing was getting measurements, and ended up at about 255 millimeters in length was pretty good, and the width was going to be about 46 to 50. just to hold the glue gun itself. And then I thought, okay, well, let's just double that, and that will include the portion for the container, as we see here, for the glue sticks, and then the container for the electrical cord. And then, of course, we had our two little nozzle holes there. And it turned out pretty good. If we just go ahead and hit transparent, you can get a look on that, and even a little cutout for the cord, because I noticed a lot of those didn't have that and put undue strain on the cord, so I thought that would work out well. And again, the measurements on this, everything came out pretty good. So basically, and what we'll do is we'll go back out here, is we wanted to maintain and get some good fillet edges or rounded edges on this, and I think this is something that a lot of people need to take into consideration. So if we go back and we go to basic shapes, if we ended up putting a square on here, and then we ended up taking our radius, and let's change it to 0.8, and when we zoom in here, we've got some real nice edges on this, real nice and smooth, looks professional. But the problem is, now focus on this and remember what it looks like, okay? Because what ends up happening is when we take this out, and let's just make this as long as it's supposed to be, so it'll be about 255. That's good enough. And then that is going to be 46. But then when we zoom in on the corner, we've lost that nice rounded filleted edge that we had. And so while we have it later on down here, when it gets to this, we see that it's really segmented to the point of where it's just blocky and a really polygon type of, it just doesn't look cool. So what I found out is that if we take this and we have our piece and we have our radius, which is 0.8, and we're going to take the length and we're going to say it's 255. Well, no, that's going to be 46. Actually, yeah, 46. And then if we go down to width, it's going to be 255. But the problem is it only goes to 200 on that, and the height is going to be 10. So that's basically going to be half of our tray. So now when we go in on this, notice how we still have that real nice corner edge, and that it hasn't been distorted like it was before. So what we end up with is something that's really nice when we're getting that. And let me see. Okay, so we've got that. So basically what we ended up doing is making our first part. So we make the first part, and we could end up cloning this, and we could move this, do shift and arrow, and we could make that and kind of move it around and kind of bring it so that it connects up to that there. Now you could do something like that, but you see that we've got a little bit of that, we've still got a little bit of an edge there. So what we can end up doing is we'll just take this one and we'll just hit it like that, and we're good to go. So basically we end up, and you could make some concessions for that into making it, instead of 46 and 46, you could make 46.25 or 46.5, and then as you join it together and overlap, you would have your 92 millimeters, if that's really a big deal. So we've got that. So we'll just join both of these. And, well, actually, let's not. You might be like, what? And what we'll end up doing is we'll just clone this piece, because we'll use that in the near future. Now we will bind these together and group them together. And then what we'll do with this piece here is we'll just make it blue. Well, we'll leave that one blue. We'll keep this one red. And what we're going to do is we want to have that inset on our plate. So when we take a look at this, we notice that there's a little tray here, and we've got our walls and everything. So what we will do is we will take this, and instead of being 46 by, whatever it was, what was the dimensions of this? Now it's supposed to be 255. Okay, there we go. And if we do this, and that'll be 255. So we've got half of that, but we want to have that tray inset, and let's say we want to have like a 3mm wall. So we'll go down here and we'll make this 43, and then we'll make this 252, and we'll hit enter, and then we're good to go. So, and the other thing we want to end up doing is what I found out in 3D printing. Now we have to remember, because we have this little rounded edge here, that might cause some problems with how this is made on your 3D printer. So in other words, if this overhang is big enough, you might have supports on there, and it might end up kind of messing up your print or something like that. You might not have good overhangs. It depends on the printer. So what we'll end up doing is we'll go back to this and we'll make this, I don't know, we'll make it like 13. And then what we'll end up doing is going here and we'll drop this down 3. So that way, we could probably take it up a little bit more. Just enough so we get past that one edge. So we've got, I think that would be good right there. Yeah. So we'll do that. And so that way we'll have a flat bottom on our piece there. So going back for the inset, again, we subtracted 2mm from this. So instead of 46, we have 43 and 252, and we're going to make this a hole. So we'll do that. And then we'll combine both of these like so. And what we'll do is we'll align them. We'll pick this one as being our master, center, center, and the problem is I need to back up because we need to make this one a little bit higher. So we'll do that. And then we'll align them. Then we'll click on the blue one. It's centered there, centered there. Oh, actually, we want it on this, that right there, and then centered. So now that'll be centered onto that wall. And then what we can end up doing is just kind of sliding this over, hit the left arrow key until we've got our distance, which looks pretty good. And then the thing that we want to do, since we have this selected, and this is on the build plate, we need to raise that up. And let's say if we want a base of our tray to be about 3mm. Let's just go ahead and redo this, and we'll bring this up 3. And you could either drag it that way, or what you could end up doing is just clicking on this, and then you could set it to 3mm and raise it up that way. So now, when we have that all done, we select both of those, we group them, and now when we look inside, what we end up with is those nice filleted and rounded corners. So yeah, that'll look really, really nice. So yeah, we've got that going there. The other thing we could end up doing to get the second portion of this, the second half on here, is we'll grab this block here, and we'll kind of do the same thing, 0.8 for a radius, and what was it, 46? 46 by, no, not 46. We want that 2, because it's only 200. And then the length will be 46. But then we have to do a little bit of adjustment here, because it's 255. And then what we could end up doing is just bringing that over to our piece here. And we could align that. So we'll select both of those. We'll align. And we will do this, click that in center. Let me see if I can do that again. Blah. And we'll do it on that side. So now we've got it perfectly joined. So we're good to go on that. And what we could do is, I think we're good on that. And then we could raise up this red part into, I think what would he end up doing? What, high of 80. So we do 80, we could do that, and then we'll copy this, and we will make this, we'll bring this up 3, and then we'll change some of these dimensions. So let's make this 43, and we'll make this 252. And since that is selected, we'll make that a box or a hole. And then, so we have the hole, we'll select that, and then we'll do our centering like that, and now everything is centered. So if we take a look, we've got a good distance on that, and again, we'll select the red, we'll select our hole, we'll group everything, and boom, there is our hole. So yeah, we could end up doing something like that. We could go through, we could take our box again and just kind of speed through this. Let's say we want to make that, let's just make it 16, and we will raise this up. Oh yeah, we forgot our fillet, our roundness, our radius. So 0.8. And now we can end up, what was the width, 46? No, we wanted 16. And then on the length we wanted was 46. And actually we could make that 48 because we want that to go past our thing there. So we could go through, and if we zoom in here, and you could kind of center this if you wanted to. And let's do some little, if we take a little look-see in here, you could kind of make this onto however you want it, depending on the connection that you want, or I think that would work out fine, I don't know. Let's just go for it on the same on each side. And then on this, since we've got that, I think that'll work out well. And there is our box. So we've got that. And again, you could make this any size that you want by taking this and then moving it left or right. If you wanted more, you could actually measure your individual glue sticks and say, okay, well, I know I'm going to get 3 across, how many deep, and then you kind of get an estimate of what that measurement would be for 10, 12, 16, 18, 24 glue sticks, and you could adjust accordingly. And also depends on how much cord you have as well. So if you have a glue gun with a huge long cord, you might want a larger part of that container on here. So let's just say we want, because the amount that I have is pretty good, so I'd probably make it a little bit smaller, probably about like that, so you could have more glue sticks. And then once that's done, and we could probably even, let's go ahead and we could drag this down a little bit into where we get like so. And we're good to go. So we have that, hit shift, we'll select, and then we could go through and end up making our holes, which our holes ended up being 8. It was 8 by 8. And if I remember correctly, what was it? 48. So we just zip that up to like 48-ish. And then we could take that. We'll raise this up. And the other thing you could end up doing, notice how we have this number on the side where it says -2, so that's below the work plane. So if this was actually just on the build plate, and we click on that, and we click on that arrow, and as soon as we start moving it, that number appears. So if I wanted this to go up, like say, let's, I don't know, let's just put 40, just as an example, then that will raise that up. But we're just going to go ahead, and so it just barely makes that top. We'll select the red. We'll do our little centering. No. See, this is going to be problematic because we want it to be in the center right there. And because it's a different shape, if I, you know what I could have done? I could have ungroup that and do the whole with just that little shape there. But I'm not going to go back and do that. So we'll just kind of move this, and we'll just kind of eyeball it. So we'll just do that. We'll do that. We'll just bring it here, and that looks good enough for government work. And then we'll select that one, and then the red, and we'll group everything. And there are the holes. And if we do transparent, you can see that it came out pretty good. So you could leave it just like this, but I wanted to go the extra mile and end up putting that little cut on there. So that way it's at an angle. That was kind of interesting because I was like, how is this going to work? So the only way that I could figure out how to do this was we have everything. And basically what I ended up doing is taking a box and just kind of put it like this and made a big box. And then what I ended up doing, I didn't worry about the filleting or anything like that. And then just kind of kept it at like 22 degrees, 22.5 degrees. And then just kind of brought it out here. And then we're going to go ahead and just raise this up. And the important thing is to look at this part right here and to see how that goes. And we could just bring it like that. Using the arrow keys, it's kind of weird. But I haven't found a better way to do this. So basically, I think we're good right there. And that should give us, yeah, I think that'll be good. We can do a little cutout on that. So this is how I did it with that. Made that a hole. And if we zoom in there, you can see that it cuts away just enough that that looks halfway decent. I think that'll work. It's so much easier to do it the second time after you've done it 2 or 3 different times. So we'll select both of these. We'll go ahead and group through the magic of algorithms that we have. And there it is. So what we end up having there is our little caddy for the most part. The next thing, let's say we wanted to do like that little hole there. We could take, let's just do a cylinder and kind of do this, do that, take it at that, bring it up here, and we will raise this up like so, and I don't know if we can center this just on this piece here. I don't think we can. So if I do that, it'll center it there or on the side. Interesting. I guess we're just stuck with what it is. And let's just go ahead and we'll drop this down a little bit. So that way we've got enough room for our electric cord. We'll just make it really pronounced, like so. We'll make that a hole. We'll grab everything. Oops, not everything. We just want these. We'll group that. and there is the hole for our cord. So the only other thing that we have after that is a couple of things. We got to have this here, this little piece here that will, where the gun will actually rest. And I made some measurements on that. It's 75 high, it's 46 wide, and the bottom of that hole comes up to about 36. So really, if we're going to do something like that, that's kind of an easy thing to do. Again, we'll take our box and we'll do our 0.8 for our fillet, and our height is going to be 75, and our length is going to be, what was it, 5? Nope, that was going to be 46. And the width is going to be 5. So that way we've got enough beef in our thing here. And what did I say that was? 46. Let's make that 48, because we're going to need a couple millimeters to join that to the wall there. And then basically I did some measurements of about 95 millimeters from this edge to here is where I'll be able to do that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the ruler, and let's just go ahead and we'll do that. And we'll select this. I think if we set this to 0, nope, we don't want that. We want to use midpoint. There we go. So 0, and then 0, and there we go. So now what we could end up doing is taking this, and when we have that set for the, we see how the measurements and all this stuff. So if I want to go 95 inches or 95 millimeters from the left side here, what I could end up doing is just punching this in and do 95, and we're good to go. And then what we could end up doing is just kind of sliding this in. Do shift. But another way that we could do this to make sure that this edge goes onto the edge of the blue is we will select this build plate or work plane tool, and we'll just click it there. And now we'll click our red piece, and if we hit D, that'll put it down onto the work plane area. Now obviously we've got some over on the edge here, but that's one way that you could do this, and to make sure items are actually touching each other. So we could end up just kind of, oops, boy, I'm just screwing this all up, ain't I? And we're going to return the work plane. So we'll hit the work plane tool again, click on the floor, and now what we could end up doing is doing that. And if we go down here, we could end up even making it like that. Let's see what happens if we do 0.1. I think that'll work. Yep, that'll work. And then at the top, oh, we see we've got, let's just bring that in. And if we wanted to make this uniform, we could bring it all the way up, but I think we're 75. Yeah, it's 75, so that's good to go. And then what we could end up doing is taking our circle and making the cutout for that, for the gun to rest on. And we're going to take this up. But the first thing we're going to end up doing is we'll select that. We'll do the alignment tool and make sure that it's center and center. And then now the only thing we need to do is just kind of draw this up. And if we're at 36, which is that number right there, we could type it in or we could move it. And then we could end up doing is just kind of bringing this up. And I think it was somewhere around here. We're just doing some guesswork here. So like so, and we'll just draw this up until I think that's about what it was. And we'll make that a hole. And we'll select that. We'll group. And boom, there is the little holder. And that's according to the measurements. You're going to want to make sure that the measurement between this side and this side accommodates your glue gun. So get your little calipers and make sure that you do the measurement. It's not just, you know, throw a shape in there and we'll try it. Measure twice, cut once, or print once anyway. So that's where you end up doing that. And so if we group all that together, boom, that's basically what we end up having. The interesting thing now is the little drip tray. So on this one, oh, and of course, I would have to move that forward. This is the new and improved version 3. This one would have to move forward. So if we went ahead and did that, of whatever that distance is, but you get the idea. But let's just say that's what we want. And to do our tray, this was kind of an interesting little thing because I wanted a tray to go in here. So knowing that, I want a custom molded tray for that little piece there. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'll pull this off to the side. And there's a reason for this, because now we're going to take our square, and we want, again, that's going to be 46. Oh, we want that fillet thing. How dare you? You made me forget the fillet thing. So 0.8. At least I'm going to blame it on you anyway. So now we can go through and we could do 46. And I think that length is 75. I think it is, something like that. That's good enough for government work. But now what we can end up doing is we could move this over here. And we want to have a little lip on this, so that way we've got some overhang. Now, obviously, this is going to touch a little bit, so we want to have a little bit of space in between there. So I think that's good enough. So we'll have that space there, maybe like so. And then we want a little bit of overhang on this. Now this was really an interesting tool, because if I click the blue and I hit T, that'll make it transparent. So now I can actually see what's going on with this, and I can see that, yeah, well, I've got some overhang. I want to move this around or adjust it. And let's say we even click the red, we can move it over. Like so. Actually, let's go ahead and make that half. And we can see that that is going to work out okay, I think. And we can zoom in here, and we can extend this out until it gets all the way to that side. But again, we're going to have to go through and we'll back that off a little bit so that we've got a little bit of space in there. Don't want to make it so tight that it just butts up against it, but we do want to have some distance in there. So let's make it 0.25. That should be good enough. And again, on that side, we will do that. And I think we're good to go. So there is our block there. So now what we can end up doing is we will select this and we'll make this a whole. We'll select both of those things, we'll merge them together. And now we can see on our part here, we've got a little lip on there of where our tray can overlap on that piece. So now the only other thing that we need to do now is to make the, I guess, the receptacle for this. So we'll just copy, go over this, and we'll just make this, what, 40, 49? We'll just make this 48. 48. Oops, that's not what we want. 38. 38. And then this one is going to be, let's just make that 90 or 91. This is just for playing around. And then what we could end up doing is taking this, make this the hole, and we can do that. And we'll even make this a little bit taller. Go through, we'll align it, centered there, and centered there. And then as we zoom in, we can see that we've got a decent looking hole there. So that should look pretty good. And with that fillet, we should have some pretty decent rounded corners and stuff. So we'll do that. We'll group. And, oh, we forgot something. What did we forget? We forgot to raise up the hole for our box. So that's why that happened. So let's say we want our hole to be, let's see, since that's down there, and we'll just make it 2.5, just for grins and giggles. Oh, that's the whole thing. No, I didn't want that. Click the box. You're down below. You're down below. And we're going to make that 2.5. And then now, when we select both of these and do group, boom, boom, boom. And if we look in there, we've got our corners and everything. It's pretty good. That should work well. So once we've got that done, then we could bring in our other piece. And then we could bring this in there. And of course, that's going to be up a little bit because of the flooring, but about like so. But you see that that will work. And if we click on the blue, you can see that we've got enough space around all sides for that to fit in. And if it doesn't, what you could end up doing is just kind of bringing this in. Maybe we'll just bring it in like that. And maybe a little bit more on this, like so. And that's basically how I made that little drip tray. So, yeah. Other than that, I think, we ended up doing some lettering on this one. You see that we've got the, where it says DualMelt Pro. And for people that were wondering, how do you do text? Somebody asked me about this, and it was like, yeah, because what they ended up doing is going here to letters and numbers. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll put the letter A, and then I'll put, whatever other numbers. They thought that that's how you had to do text. And that's not actually how you do text. I'm not sure why, but if you go to this magnifying glass and you type in text, now you've got 33 different types of text and numbers. So let's just hit text. We'll bring this in here. And when we populate this box, we could just put DualMelt Pro. And we'll just leave it in multi-language. And then with these, we could end up adjusting it, moving it however we want, like so. And as we zoom in, we could even go down and kind of drop it in, still have some raised text, but we are good to go. So yeah, that is how that works. So that's basically how I ended up making the Caddie, and we will see how it works out. Now, like I said, what we ended up doing was our version 2, and this is the version 2. So, but some of the adjustment is going to bring this stand here that actually holds it. It's going to have to, because we have this little piece here, as you can see, those legs, that is going to be like that. So that way it will have something to hold against, like so. So by doing that and moving this piece forward, then we'll actually get it to where it's like this right here. And with that, the tip is still there and it won't drip onto outside of the box or the caddy. So yeah, ends up, I think this will work out pretty good. Holds up all our stuff. The only thing I was really concerned about was, and let me show you, let me switch to another camera. Switch to another camera, switch, there we go. And if you look right here, notice how you've got those, how it seems like it's not filled in. That is the only thing. It's not smooth like the pieces here. So I think it's just because it's on the angle that it does that. So if you know why it looks like it has separation in there, or maybe I just need to do some ironing on this, I don't know, or increase the number of walls. Because with this ended up using two wall loops, and so maybe if I increase it to 3, it'll fill that in. I'm not sure. Again, I'm a noob to Tinkercad, and I'm a noob to 3D printing and stuff like that. Got about 300-400 hours of printing. So, but yeah, this is the version 2. Version 3 will move this forward, and we should end up having a good result. So yeah, and there it is. Yeah, I think it looks kind of good. Boom. So that will eventually be the new and improved one once I get some filament in. Excuse me. So anyway, that's what we got going on. We'll see what happens with this. Again, I wanted to redo this. This video ends up being 42 minutes, so we're shaved off 8 minutes. Congratulations. But I don't know, I'll see after the fact whether the audio and the video marry up, which is what I was really concerned about. So other than that, I think we'll leave this video up, and that is going to be it. So in summary, we used Tinkercad to make our Stanley DualMelt Pro glue gun holder caddy thingamajig thing, which was kind of fun to do. I'm getting a little bit better at Tinkercad. Things are coming along much faster than where they were before. But the thing that you can do is that and it's easy to do, you can like and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. And then if you even want to go one step further, you can buy me a coffee. A link is in the description box down below. And that's where the scrolling text is all the people that have bought me coffees. And then I buy coffees for people as well, so share the wealth. But with that said, if you need to get in touch with me, hit the email address, official, thevariedlife@gmail.com. I 100% will answer each and every person. That I will not fail. But as far as like comments, I'm getting to the point of where I've got like 226,000 views or something, so it's hard to keep up. But if you absolutely need to connect with me, email is the way to go. So with that, we're going to close out this video and see if the audio is synced up. Hopefully it does. If not, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. I just did a software update on my Ecamm Live, so we'll check this out after the fact. If you know why, put that, email me and let me know. But time to finish my latte, so we'll let you go and we'll see you on the next video, okay? Peace. I don't know, it seems like it's lagging a little bit from what I'm seeing. I think it's lagging.